to physically put you in a place. In this case, it might be a villa or a cabin or a room where you're engaged with nature in a way that you were never able to do that before. But I have to do it in such a responsible way that I don't destroy the very thing that I'm telling you we care about.
Mr. Gill, you have designed some of the world's most iconic buildings, from the Jeddah Tower to the Wasl Plaza. What drew you to a small paradise like Westmoreland, Jamaica?
Well, Janet, it's there's a lot of things that drove me back home. It's great to be back in Jamaica working, that's clear. But Westmoreland, and I don't know if you know this, I went to school in Manchester and at the Carteret College, and so that side of the island, that part of the country, that entire area, was a part of my life when we were down there. We didn't live there, we lived in St. Anne, but we would go there often. And I grew up in a house that was looking over the savannas of Savanna-la-Mar that we would spend time in sometimes. And when we came upon Paradise Park, and just remembering, the old hot spicy shrimp and the south side of the island and the beaches and seeing Paradise Park, it's a real pleasure to be back down there. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous part of the island.
Paradise Park, though, is a far cry from the mega structures you have become known for.
Mm-hmm.
What excites you most about this project?
Well, you have to remember, Janet, that what gets us up in the morning is quality, right? So
what?
Quality.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we're very excited about the very large projects, and sometimes we do small projects. But what's consistent about all of them, we hope, is that they have a very high standard. They are seeking to achieve things that are new. They're helping cultures or communities or countries advance. And from a sustainable standpoint, when we look for projects that are promoting or proving out the sustainable aspects of our design, that's really what gets us excited. And Paradise Park is all of those things.
So tell me, because you're known for your form follows performance. That philosophy, has that shaped the design of Paradise Park specifically?
It certainly has. I've talked about this a little bit before. Mm-hmm. And Paradise Park is the result of a lot of analysis that came out of the environmental work that our consultants did with us. A lot of analysis that we did internally on everything from wind patterns, species behavior, habitats, environments, natural environments and systems that are on the site today. In fact, we went back hundreds and hundreds of years to understand the patterns of wind and rivers and streams and kind of the systems that are on site. And so the first thing we did is try to understand where are the appropriate places to touch it, where should we not touch. And so if you look at the project, although it may appear to be very encompassing, it's actually a very light touch on the footprint. It's a very delicate touch on the property. And so we had a lot of discussions internally with environmentalists, with our embodied carbon calculations and scientists that work with us. And what you're seeing is a form that is a result of the performance aspects of that site to meet things like low energy or net zero energy, low embodied carbon or net zero carbon.
Okay. Let's talk about your environmental stewardship. Let's continue with that. Mm-hmm. You have stated that only 4% of the 420-acre site will be built on. What design and engineering considerations made that possible?
Well, the footprint number, the 4%, is really a calculation based on the actual floor plate of the buildings. And so when we think about that, there are methods and means that we use for construction, which they're not new. They've been in Jamaica and around the world for decades. In certain areas that may have swales or where we want grasslands to grow under the buildings, we're just touching the ground with posts and raising up the floor plate. In other areas, we're resting lightly. In some areas, we're moving out and just, again, using boardwalk systems or very light touches on the land. On the hotel piece, it's really about 3 stories. So we're getting a fair bit of count, 200 rooms or so, in a very small footprint, whereas if you were to take that and spread it out like peanut butter across the site, we'd be consuming much more land to get those same 200 rooms. So we felt that the height of 3 stories, or about 7 meters or so, 21, 22 feet or so, was commensurate with the kind of long scale, low horizontality of the property. The savanna, the very kind of sweeping moves. And then we have little dots of villas and houses. And so once we began to understand how we wanted to engage, it kind of became a kind of rationalization of footprint and density and room count that we could achieve, and we were happy with that.
I'm very excited about what you're telling me, and I want you to expand on the steps that are being taken to ensure that mangroves, wetlands, and sensitive ecosystems remain untouched, not just during the construction, but long term.
Yeah, I want to be very careful about this conversation, because I know that there are a lot of things that have happened on the island that people are upset about. And I understand that we're losing as a country some of our most precious resources when it comes to natural systems. And that includes the mangroves, wetlands, just property in general, beachfront habitat, both in the marine life, but also on land. And so the analysis that went through with the environmentalists and internally kind of assessed the mangrove areas, assessed the species and habitats that were within those mangrove areas, and also on the marine side and also on the land side. And then we became to understand that we could strike a balance of a couple of things. Number one is we can bring people to learn about environmental stewardship on this property while giving them an experience that they may have never had in their lives before. What does that mean? That means that I have to put you in a place physically. I have to physically put you in a place. In this case, it might be a villa or a cabin or a room where you're engaged with nature in a way that you were never able to do that before. But I have to do it in such a responsible way that I don't destroy the very thing that I'm telling you we care about. And so we have gone in and kind of surgically brought the 5 or 6 villas over on the water side, a little bit on the beach side, on the seaside, and then the hotels, and then the villas on the Savannah up by the Gulf area. And those were fistfights, I can tell you. Back and forth fistfights. Some people wanted more. Some people thought we could do more, or should do more. But we've struck a balance where we've just, majority of the mangrove is preserved and will be preserved. We will write standards for construction and the process during construction where those areas and habitats are not disturbed. And we will also write standards for the operations of this facility if we remain as the architects all the way through. We're not just interested in how it gets built and when it gets built, but how it lives. So for example, light pollution. There are species that are very sensitive to light at night, and so we'll manage that and bring that down so as not to disturb the species that are nesting or on the beach. Maybe they're turtles or other species that are up there. We will do the same thing as it relates to noise. We will do the same thing as it relates to emissions. The same thing as it relates to water runoff and leaching of materials. So we will source materials, whether they be locally or elsewhere, to be of a standard that we're not negatively impacting the rivers and estuaries or the grasses and wetlands that are on that property. Because if it survives well and if it flourishes and grows to be even healthier maybe than it might be today, it's to our benefit, because that's what we want people to see.
I've heard a lot about what you'll do on the environmental stewardship, but would you be able to talk about what technologies will be deployed to achieve this?
We need to serve as an example for others to understand that you can build in very sensitive areas responsibly. The country is at a point where it's growing. We can see it, we can feel it, but we believe that it needs to grow in a responsible way. How do we do that? We have a very rigorous process about the sourcing of materials, the purchasing of materials, everything from the shipping and installation and even construction methodologies. The materials that we select are low embodied carbon. The process of construction will need to be the same. We will write specifications around the contractor and interview the contractor with the client as to how this is constructed and the method by which it's constructed. And when we talk about sustainability, it's not just about the buildings, it's also about the people. So we don't want to put the people that are building this in adverse conditions. We want them to be safe, we want them to be comfortable. We know it's hot sometimes, and so we have to think about how we do things like this. And when we're done, we think that we will also be running the analysis on the operational characteristics of the hotel and the villas. And we think that we can offer those who purchase or those who come to live here or those who are visiting an example that they can take with them elsewhere. So imagine if we're able to do this for Paradise Park, it would then be proof that everybody else could do this.
So in other words, you foresee this project becoming a model for future development across the Caribbean, for instance?
100%. I think this can be a model. I think it's a seed change. I think what Jamaica needs to understand is that the manner in which you grow will define your very existence. I think we have been lucky to date. We have been lucky. You are probably, as a country, in the perfect equation, the perfect balance between the population, the embodied carbon, the natural resources that you have. Your equilibrium is just right there. But over time, you will grow and you will densify. People will move back into the cities. The cities will grow. Montego Bay is going to grow. The South Shore is going to grow. People are going to build more houses. And so as they come to Jamaica, what are the standards that you expect from these people? What is it that we're going to tell them? Okay, we want you to have that new house. We want you to build that affordable housing area. But here's how you have to do it. We want you to preserve the water. We want you to make sure that from a power standpoint, you're not undermining the grid. If you can, we want you to contribute to the grid. If you can, we want you to be low carbon, or ideally net zero carbon. We want an equilibrium. And so once we strike that balance, and it takes policy, it takes knowledge and science, and it takes will. But I do think that given the client group that we have, given the leadership that we have in the country and in Westmoreland, I feel very good about this project achieving those goals.
So let's talk about culture,
Yes.
community, and craftsmanship.
Yes.
You have said that this resort won't be walled and that you want Savanna-la-Mar to rise with the project. What does that look like in real terms for you?
That takes on a couple of different configurations in my mind.
Yes.
One is that I think when you build a wall around any environment, it's telling people on the outside that you don't trust them, and it's telling people that you don't want them here, only by invitation only. I think that sends a message in a community of distrust. So my hope is that this place can be secure and safe and comfortable for people to come without building a wall. What does that mean? That means that Savanna-la-Mar has to rise up and embrace whatever comes to you in your future as part of your own, and that you are responsible partly for its success as it is for your success. And so this is what I meant about the quid pro quo. What does Savanna-la-Mar get out of this? If it is a beautiful place to be, and it is, if I can go into town and buy my goods for my house, if I can go in and stop and get gas and have lunch, if I can go and engage with an artisan, or have someone make something for me, or do a piece of sculpture, or paint a painting, or bring that into Paradise Park, or teach a class in Paradise Park, where someone from Europe is coming in and they're learning about the culture of Sav. Wouldn't that be a wonderful thing? It's a mutually beneficial process. And so when Sav rises up to this challenge and embraces this process, it allows Paradise Park to live open.
Does this mean that we're not looking at an all-inclusive hotel in the process?
This is not an all-inclusive hotel.
So it's not an
It is
all-inclusive.
definitely not an all-inclusive hotel. This is a high-end ecological resort, and the intent is that it has a very low footprint, very low impact, along with the villas and everything else that happens here. But what does that mean? It really means that it's a community. People will work here, they'll live in Sav, maybe they live nearby. People here will go into Sav. I mean, you have to get your gas for your car somewhere, right? You have to go into Sav and go to the hardware store or get equipment or get things for your home or for the golf course. It is an engine for Sav, right? So if Savanna-la-Mar rises up and embraces this process, it is only to their benefit. It will only be to your benefit. So this is a mutually supportive equation. It's not just about one side versus another. It's more of an integrated vision for our future. And I assume that we won't be the only ones that are coming to the south side, that there will be others that will want to come. And I think Sav should demand that they're embracing their people and embracing their artisans and their culture as part and parcel of their existence.
In what ways will local materials, techniques, or artisans be used in the design and construction process?
So as we learn more about what this project will become, and what I mean about that is physically, what will it become? Because right now we have a master plan. Mm-hmm. The buildings actually haven't been designed yet. What we have is an intent. So as they mature and get designed, what we want to do, and we've done this almost everywhere we've worked in the world, is we will go into Sav and we will engage with contractors, landowners, artists, sculptors, painters, and we'll say, tell us about this place. In Kingston, one of the pivotal aspects of one of the plans we did was the crabman.
The pragma?
The crabman. The crabman.
Okay.
Because the crabman would come and sell crab at that corner all the time. And everybody said, oh yeah, get rid of that. No. We integrated that man and his life selling crabs from his little cart into the process and became part of the experience of that master plan. How can we take the artists that are in Sav and bring them into what the buildings become? I need to understand about what kind of stone. How is the stone in Sav any different than the stone in Montego Bay or Kingston? Is there a species of trees that is grown in Sav that's different? Are there plants that are flourishing in Savanna-la-Mar that are different than Kingston? Because the climate, the microclimate is completely different. What is it that makes this belong to Sav? It's not just the materials, it's also the people. And that's why we want to talk. So we're going to learn a lot from the people. We're going to integrate them as artisans in every way we can. And that will ensure the legacy and the beauty of this place for a long, long time.